Would you believe me if I told you that the fruits Jesus ate every single day are still sitting in your grocery store right now? And modern science is only beginning to understand why these ancient foods were so extraordinary? Today, we are diving into 10 biblical fruits that Jesus consumed. And what researchers are discovering about these foods is turning heads in laboratories around the world. These were not exotic superfoods from some distant land. These were the everyday fruits of first century Judea. Grown in the hills, pressed in ancient stone vats, and eaten by hand around open fires. And every single one of them carries a nutritional profile that modern dietitians are calling remarkable. Stick around because number 6 on this list was so treasured in the ancient world that it was used as currency, medicine, and offering all at once. And number two is going to completely change the way you think about one of the most common fruits on the planet, ranked from remarkable to absolutely miraculous. Number 10, pomegranate. Long before modern nutrition panels existed, the pomegranate was already being celebrated as one of the most powerful fruits on earth. In the ancient Near East, pomegranates were everywhere, carved into the pillars of Solomon's temple, embroidered onto the robes of high priests, and eaten throughout the land of Israel as both food and symbol. Jesus would have grown up seeing this fruit not just on the table, but woven into the very fabric of Jewish life and worship. And here's where it gets fascinating. Modern researchers have taken a long, hard look at the pomegranate, and what they found is staggering. This fruit contains punicolagens, a group of antioxidants so potent that they are found almost nowhere else in the natural world. A study published in the journal Nutrition Research found that pomegranate juice demonstrated antioxidant activity that outperformed both red wine and green tea. That is not a small claim. That is a seismic one. Traditional medicine across the Middle East used pomegranate for centuries to support digestion, reduce inflammation, and promote heart health. Modern science has begun to validate every single one of those uses. Researchers at the University of California found that regular pomegranate consumption was associated with measurable improvements in cardiovascular markers. The people of first century Judea did not have the science to explain why this fruit made them feel better. Number 9, figs. If there is one fruit that is woven into the story of Jesus more personally than any other, it is the fig. Jesus referenced fig trees multiple times throughout his ministry. He cursed a barren fig tree. He used the fig tree as a sign of the coming season. This was not coincidence. Figs were everywhere in first century Israel. They were a staple food, a source of quick energy, and one of the 7 species specifically listed in Deuteronomy as a blessing of the promised land. And the nutritional story behind the fig is one that modern science finds genuinely impressive. Figs are one of the highest plant-based sources of calcium available anywhere in the natural world, making them critical for bone health in a culture that did not They are also extraordinary. Research published Nutrition linking fig consumption to improve digestive function and better blood sugar regulation. What makes figs even more remarkable is their content of polyphenols and flavonoids, compounds that researchers have linked. A study out of the University of Scranton found that dried figs delivered a significant antioxidant punch that fresh processed snacks simply could not match. The people walking the hills of Galilee reached for figs because they were sweet, filling, and available. What they did not know is that every bite was doing something extraordinary on the inside. Number 8, grapes. If you walked through the hill country of first century Judea, you would not travel far before stumbling upon a vineyard. Grapes were the lifeblood of the ancient Israelite economy and culture. They were eaten fresh off the vine, dried into raisins for long journeys, and pressed into wine that appeared at nearly every meal and every celebration. Jesus turned water into wine at Cana. He used the vine and its branches as one of his most personal and powerful metaphors. This fruit was not background scenery in the biblical world. It was front and center. And modern science has delivered a verdict on grapes that would have astonished even the most devoted ancient farmer. Grapes, particularly dark varieties, are loaded with resveratrol, a polyphenol compound that has generated enormous excitement in the research community. Studies published in journals including Biochimica et Biophysica Acta have linked resveratrol to a range of documented biological effects, including support for cardiovascular health, reduced inflammatory markers, and protection of cellular function. Beyond resveratrol, grapes deliver quercetin, vitamin C, vitamin K, and a spectrum of antioxidants that work together in ways researchers are still mapping out. The skin of the grape alone contains compounds that laboratories around the world are studying. Number 7. Olives. Most people think of olive oil before they think of the olive itself, but in 1st century Israel, olives were eaten whole, preserved in salt, and consumed daily by virtually everyone, including the poor, the wealthy, and everyone in between. The Mount of Olives, where Jesus prayed on the night of his arrest, was not named poetically. It was named because that hillside was literally covered in ancient olive groves that fed and sustained the people of Jerusalem. Gethsemane itself means oil press in Hebrew. This fruit was so central to daily life that it became the backdrop for the most pivotal night in human history. And what modern nutritional science has uncovered about the olive is nothing short of extraordinary. Olives are one of the richest natural, a compound that researchers at the Manel Chemical Senses Center discovered has a biological mechanism strikingly similar to ibuprofen in terms of its anti-inflammatory properties. That discovery was published in the journal Nature, and it sent shockwaves. Olives are also packed with oleuropein, a polyphenol that studies have linked to improved cardiovascular markers, support for healthy blood pressure, and significant antioxidant activity. The Mediterranean diet, which places olives and olive oil at its very center, remains one of the most studied and validated dietary patterns in all of modern medicine. Jesus did not just pray among, and every single olive contained a pharmacological profile. Number 6. Dates. If there was one fruit in the ancient Near East that carried the weight of an entire civilization on its branches, it was the date. Date palms were so essential to life in 1st century Judea that the palm branch became a national symbol of Israel itself. When Jesus rode into Jerusalem on Palm Sunday, the crowds did not wave those branches randomly. They were waving the symbol of provision, victory, and life. Dates were eaten fresh, dried for preservation, pressed into thick sweet syrup called date honey, and traded across the ancient world as one of the most valuable food commodities in existence. And modern research has looked closely at this ancient fruit and found something remarkable hiding in plain sight. Dates are extraordinarily rich in natural sugars that deliver rapid, sustainable energy without the crash associated with refined sugar. But beyond their energy profile, dates contain an impressive array of minerals including potassium, magnesium, and copper, alongside a fiber content that researchers have linked to improved digestive health and better glycemic response when consumed as part of a whole food diet. A study published in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry identified a wide range of phenolic compounds and flavonoids in dates that demonstrated significant antioxidant activity. Researchers in the Middle East have also investigated dates for their potential role in supporting brain health, with some studies pointing to compounds that may help reduce inflammatory markers associated with neurological stress. Number 5. Mulberries. Mulberries do not get the attention they deserve. Walk into any grocery store today and you will struggle to find them. But travel back to 1st century Israel and you would find mulberry trees growing across the hillsides, in the valleys, and along the roadsides of Galilee and Judea. Jesus himself referenced the mulberry tree directly in the Gospel of Luke, telling his disciples that faith the size of a mustard seed could uproot. This was not an obscure reference. His audience knew exactly because they walked past them every single day. And what modern science has found inside this overlooked fruit is genuinely startling. Mulberries are one of the most concentrated natural sources of resveratrol available in the entire plant kingdom, even more concentrated per gram than grapes in many documented cases. They also deliver extraordinarily high levels of anthocyanins, the dark pigment compounds that researchers have linked to improved cardiovascular. A study published in the Journal of Nutritional Biochemistry found that mulberry acting healthy blood sugar regulation, with researchers noting traditional medicine across the Middle East and Asia has used mulberry for centuries to support liver health, eye health, and vitality. Number 4. Almonds. Most people think of almonds as a nut, but botanically speaking, the almond is the seed of a drupe, a fleshy fruit, which means it belongs firmly on this list and firmly on the table of 1st century Israel. Almonds were one of the most celebrated foods in all of biblical history. When Jacob sent his sons to Egypt to buy grain during the famine, he instructed them to bring almonds as a gift, recognizing their value as something precious and rare. The menorah, the sacred 7-branched lampstand at the heart of the tabernacle and later the temple, was designed to resemble an almond tree in full bloom. This was not decoration. This was a statement about how central the almond was to the life, faith, and identity. And modern nutritional science has made the almond one of its most studied subjects for very good reason. Almonds are among the most nutrient-dense foods on Earth, delivering a remarkable combination of vitamin E, magnesium, healthy monounsaturated fats, and plant-based protein in every single serving. A landmark study published in the New England Journal of Medicine found that regular tree nut consumption, with almonds among the most studied, was associated with significantly reduced risk of cardiovascular-related mortality. Researchers have also documented the almond's role in supporting healthy blood sugar regulation, with studies showing that consuming almonds alongside carbohydrate-rich meals measurably reduced post-meal glucose spikes. Number 3. Watermelon. This one surprises people every single time. Watermelon feels like a modern summer fruit, something you slice open at a backyard barbecue, not something you picture in the hands of Jesus walking the dusty roads of Galilee. But the historical record is clear. Watermelon originated in northeastern Africa and was being cultivated and consumed across Egypt and the broader Near East thousands of years before the 1st century. The Israelites themselves referenced it directly. In the book of Numbers, when the people of Israel were wandering in the wilderness and longing for the foods of Egypt, watermelon was one of the specific fruits they named by memory. It was that embedded in the culture of the ancient world that a people who had been slaves for generations still dreamed about it decades later. And what modern science has uncovered inside this fruit is far more impressive than its reputation suggests. Watermelon is one of the richest known, the powerful carotenoid antioxidant that researchers have linked to reduced oxidative stress, improved cardiovascular markers, and significant anti-inflammatory activity. Remarkably, watermelon contains higher concentrations of lycopene per serving than raw tomatoes, a fact that continues to surprise nutritional researchers. Beyond lycopene, watermelon delivers citrulline, a unique amino acid that the body converts into arginine, a compound that plays a documented role in supporting healthy blood flow and cardiovascular function. A study published in the American Journal of Hypertension found that watermelon extract supplementation produced measurable in study participants. Number 2. Carob. Here is the one that is going to completely change the way you think about a fruit most modern people have never seriously considered. Carob does not have the fame of grapes or the biblical drama of figs, but in 1st century Israel it was everywhere, and it carried a story that connects directly to the world Jesus walked through every single day. John the Baptist, the man who prepared the way for Jesus, is widely believed by biblical scholars and historians to have survived in the wilderness on locusts and wild honey. But the word translated as locusts in many ancient texts is believed by a significant number of scholars to refer to carob pods, which were commonly called locust beans. Throughout the carob was the survival food of the wilderness. It was what the poor ate when nothing else was available. And in the parable of the prodigal son, Jesus described the desperate hunger of the lost son by saying he longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating. Those pods were carob. Jesus used this fruit as the ultimate symbol of rock bottom because every single person in his audience knew exactly what it meant to be so hungry. You envied an animal. Number 1. Apricot. Save the best for last. That is exactly what this list has done. Because while pomegranates get the glory and grapes get the poetry, the apricot has been quietly sitting at the top of the biblical fruit hierarchy for thousands of years, waiting for the world to catch up. Many biblical scholars and linguists believe that the fruit translated as apple in the Song of Solomon, the fruit beneath whose tree the beloved rested, the fruit whose fragrance and sweetness filled the ancient poetry of Israel, was not an apple at all. Apples did not thrive in the climate of ancient Canaan. The fruit the ancient Hebrew texts were describing, the tapuach, was almost certainly the apricot. Golden, fragrant, sweet, and abundant across the hillsides of the Promised Land. This was the fruit of romance, of rest, and of celebration in the world Jesus inhabited. And modern science has delivered a verdict on the apricot that is nothing short of stunning. Apricots are one of the most concentrated dietary sources of beta-carotene available in the entire plant kingdom. Beta-carotene is the precursor to vitamin A in the body, and researchers have documented its critical role in supporting eye health, immune function, and cellular protection against oxidative damage. A study published in the European Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that regular consumption of beta-carotene-rich foods was associated with significantly reduced markers of oxidative stress